Have you ever felt that something is shifting within you, even if you can't quite explain it? It's not just about the external world changing. It goes deeper than that. It's a subtle but powerful transformation that begins as a vibration inside you, a kind of inner pause between different versions of yourself. You can feel that you no longer fit into the mold of who you used to be. Yet, at the same time, the version of you that you are becoming hasn't fully arrived either. It's as if you're in a liminal space, suspended between what was and what is about to be. Outwardly, everything might seem the same. Life may appear to be moving as usual. But inside, within your heart and soul, there are signs, brief moments, sudden impulses, unexpected emotions. It's as though the universe is working silently, behind the scenes, gently reorganizing your path. It's not chaos, it's divine order. It's preparing to hand you something that your eyes can't yet see, but your spirit already senses. This process isn't about desiring more. It's not about craving or chasing. It's about becoming. It's about being prepared internally to hold what's coming. Because what's on its way is not small, it's immense, and it requires space, strength, and alignment. Without realizing it, you're becoming that space. You're being shaped to receive something greater than anything you've held before. The first signal, you may have started to feel a subtle distance from certain people, habits, or environments that once felt like home. But it's not rejection. It's not anger. There's no conflict or bitterness. Something within you has simply moved away, silently, peacefully, without fanfare. It's as if your soul is walking ahead, whispering that it no longer belongs in places that don't resonate with your new frequency. And you can't force yourself to stay. You can't pretend anymore. You can't fake belonging where your spirit no longer feels alive. Even if your mind doesn't fully understand it, your heart accepts it with quiet grace. This isn't loss, it's release. You're not being left behind, you're being freed. Because the universe does not build new beginnings on foundations that are no longer true. To bring the new into your life, it must first create space. This detachment isn't impulsive, it's not rebellion, it's a silent retreat, natural, organic. You find that you no longer need to explain yourself. No dramatic exits, no justifications. Something simply feels complete. The chapter has ended. What once held you is now holding you back. What once filled you is now too heavy to carry. And instead of resisting, you're letting go. Not from logic, but from a soul-deep knowing. This sense of detachment might feel strange, even uncomfortable, but it isn't emptiness. It's preparation. You are being gently stripped of what cannot journey with you to your next level. Not because it was wrong, but because it has already fulfilled its role. You've stopped trying to fit into dynamics that no longer nourish you. Something deep within knows that something greater is coming. Something that cannot arrive if you're still holding on to the things that shrink you. And this kind of letting go doesn't make you colder. It makes you clearer. Your decisions begin to align with your truth. You start saying no without guilt. You walk away without drama. And you do it not from ego, but from inner wisdom. Your energy is changing. And it's not random. It's a message. It's preparation. The universe is not taking from you. It's aligning you. When you release what no longer resonates, you're saying, even without words, I'm ready. Ready for what's next, even if you can't name it yet. That silent gesture you make within, though invisible, moves unseen forces. Even if you don't yet understand why certain doors are closing, one day you'll realize they were never rejections. They were redirections. The space you are creating is precisely where something greater needed to enter. And here's the miracle. This inner release does not leave you feeling empty, but strangely at peace. It's as if, without meaning to, you've aligned yourself with a greater rhythm. As if what you're releasing isn't taking pieces of you, but letting go of outdated versions that no longer serve you. You're not losing anything essential. On the contrary, you are arriving at your essence. This entire process feels like a silent cleansing. People may drift away without conflict. Opportunities may fall through without clear reasons. Paths that once looked solid may vanish overnight. And yet, instead of clinging, you exhale. And that breath, so small, so quiet, is a profound sign that you are ready. Because those who trust what leaves are already prepared to receive what's coming. Your sensitivity deepens. You no longer tolerate the superficial, the artificial, or anything born from fear. You begin to crave truth, realness. You seek connections that are rooted, not convenient. You long for silences that feel safe, not awkward. Your soul is no longer interested in distraction. It craves expansion. And this calling, it's not coincidence. It's not whim. It's response. Because the universe doesn't only hear your words, it listens to your frequency. When you shift what you carry inside, everything around you begins to shift as well. Even when nostalgia tries to pull you back to what you've released, a deeper part of you knows you can't return. Not because you don't want to, but because you don't fit anymore. You no longer betray yourself just to belong. You no longer force comfort where there is none. And that alone is an act of spiritual maturity. You're not giving up. You're growing up. You're not running away. You're recognizing that what is truly great cannot be built on what denies your truth. You are not just releasing. You are claiming. You are reclaiming the space that is yours by divine design. And then something else becomes clear. This entire unfolding has its own rhythm, far removed from your logical mind. There are days when you feel illuminated, aligned, and there are others where everything feels paused, unclear. You wonder why things seem stalled, why so much seems to be in limbo. But deep inside, you know, you're not stuck, you're being rewritten. Because when the universe is preparing something magnificent, it silences the noise. It slows down the chaos. Not as punishment, but so you can finally hear what's rising from your own depths. You don't react the way you used to. Your response to endings is no longer resistance. It's awareness. Even through the pain, you choose to let go with intention. You've come to understand that what is being deactivated in your life isn't being taken. It's being replaced by something that aligns more completely with who you truly are. And though you may not be able to describe it yet, you carry that quiet certainty with you. You've begun to live not from the surface, but from vibration. And anything that doesn't feel real simply falls away. What isn't sustained by the soul loses its power, and you no longer try to hold on to it. Because something within you, deeper than logic, older than memory, knows that every ending now is making room for a greater beginning. You cannot force this process. You can only honor it. And it is in that honoring that you become something sacred. You become space. Space for what is real, for what is vast, for what is truly in tune with who you are now. And this doesn't happen because you wished for it. It happens because you are ready to hold it. Because without even realizing, your soul already said yes, and the universe, in its invisible, perfect language, is already responding. The second sign, you begin to experience unexpected pauses, projects that come to a halt without warning, plans that get postponed without a clear reason. Paths that once seemed defined suddenly become uncertain and blurred. At first, it's frustrating. You feel like things are falling apart, or like you're doing something wrong. But over time, something inside you begins to shift. You stop interpreting the pause as a blockage or failure. Instead, you begin to see it for what it truly is, a signal, a moment of divine recalibration. You begin to understand that there is something sacred within stillness, something you cannot force, no matter how much effort or desire you pour into it. The universe, when preparing you for something truly significant, doesn't rush you. It doesn't push you to accelerate. Instead, it pauses you, not to stop you permanently, but to strengthen you deeply, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because the most profound growth often happens in the silence, in the stillness, in the waiting. This pause is not a delay. It is a sacred transition. And you, who have finally learned to stay present in that pause, are being restructured from the inside out. In the beginning, those periods of stagnation disturbed you. You felt like you were wasting time, like you had lost your direction, like maybe you had made a mistake somewhere along the way. But then, in the silence that stretched between what once was and what had yet to arrive, something started to become visible. Not a clear answer, not a defined path, but a new kind of stability, a peace that did not depend on circumstances, but emerged from within. This newfound stability wasn't something the world gave you. It was something your soul cultivated as it adjusted itself. Because when the universe prepares you for greatness, it doesn't merely offer you time, it reconfigures you completely. And to do that, it needs you to stop running. It requires you to be still long enough for all the pieces to align without you having to force them into place. During that pause, your perception starts to shift. You begin to see things you previously ignored. You start to hear your inner voice without interference, to recognize yourself without the noise of others' expectations. And even though that shift is subtle, almost invisible, it changes everything. You also come to understand a powerful truth. Not everything that stops is broken. Some processes need time to mature, quietly, beneath the surface. Just like roots grow in darkness before a plant breaks through the soil, some directions in life are realigning themselves in ways you cannot yet see. Not because you're off course, but because you are being gently, lovingly redirected towards something your mind cannot yet conceive. And in place of resistance, you choose to inhabit the pause. You make peace with the quiet. And right there, in that exact moment of surrender, the universe starts to open a new door for you. The pause acts like a cleansing force. It removes everything you are maintaining out of desperation or anxiety. It clears away what was sustained by urgency, by empty expectations, by restless striving. You stop acting just to fill a void. You stop moving out of fear of standing still. You learn to sit with yourself without distractions, and in doing so, you become something more, a clearer channel for what's meant for you. Because here's the truth. The universe does not deposit greatness into chaotic spaces. It entrusts it to those who have made a home within themselves. The more you surrender to the pause, the more clarity you receive. Not in the form of dramatic revelations, but as a quiet knowing that roots itself in your decisions, as a deeper intuition, as a wisdom that doesn't come from thinking, but from feeling. And in that feeling, everything that once seemed stalled begins to make sense. This is not about passively waiting for something to happen. It's about realizing that you are what's about to happen. It's about becoming the very thing you were hoping would arrive. You begin to realize that this pause hasn't been isolating you. It's been preserving you. It's not that opportunities have stopped showing up, or that the right people aren't appearing, or that answers are being withheld. It's that you are being protected. Protected because what's on its way requires the clearest, truest, most refined version of you. You cannot hold on to something big while remaining in the same state that held on to the small. Expansion requires a shedding. It requires space. It requires stillness. And that stillness, though it may not always be comfortable, becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where you stop defining yourself by what you do or what you achieve, and start valuing yourself simply for being. Even when nothing is happening on the outside, you discover you don't need to constantly produce to feel worthy. That progress doesn't have to be visible every day to be meaningful. That true growth often doesn't make noise, but it leaves a profound imprint on the soul. And that deep inner feeling, that quiet inner shift, is a sign of transformation, one that is silently but powerfully taking place. You begin to see that the pause is not an empty void. It is a place of gestation. Something is forming, not around you, but within you. Your perspective begins to change. You see time differently. You experience the moment differently. You stop reacting the way you used to. You stop fighting what no longer flows. You no longer measure your life based on visible movement. Now, you know that even what stands still is still working, still shaping, still guiding. In this stillness, you learn to distinguish what's urgent from what's true. You no longer leap at every impulse. You no longer allow the pressures of the world to dictate your pace. Something in you has slowed down, not out of weakness, but out of depth. And in that depth, you begin to resonate with what is truly yours. What is coming is not more of the same. It is something entirely different, because now you are different. And this is where the realization settles in fully. The pause was never about waiting. It was about preparation. You weren't being stopped. You were being tuned. Your soul was expanding, stretching, to be able to hold what's coming with courage, with clarity, and without fear. And that, even though it still hasn't fully manifested, already feels like a silent call inside you. A vibration that doesn't need to be explained. A knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from alignment. Something big is approaching, and this time, you are truly ready to receive it. The third sign is when you begin to notice that your sensitivity to the invisible is growing. You start perceiving things that used to slip right past your awareness. The energy of a place, the emotional state of a person, even if they don't say a word. You start picking up on subtle cues in your environment that tell you whether something is meant for you or not. And this isn't imagination or suggestion. It's refined perception. This heightened sensitivity isn't random. It's part of your preparation. The universe doesn't just give you something great and then leave you to figure it out on your own. It trains you to be able to hold, carry, and sustain it. That's why, before what you've been waiting for arrives, you go through a process of inner refinement. You are being shaped into someone who feels more deeply, who senses more clearly, who knows when to pause, not because the world tells you to, but because your soul does. Even when the world urges you to keep going, that inner whisper tells you to stop, to listen, to align. This new sensitivity wasn't something you consciously chose. It simply began to intensify on its own. Things you once tolerated now make you uncomfortable. What used to go unnoticed now echoes deeply within you. You feel it in conversations charged with energy, in places that feel misaligned, in decisions that don't sit right, often before your rational mind has even had a chance to catch up. At first, it may confuse you, but soon you begin to understand. It's not confusion, it's connection. You're starting to read reality from a different layer. You no longer see only what happens on the surface. You begin to feel what lies underneath. You sense the unspoken, the subtle vibrations, the truth behind the words. You notice what energy is communicating before any words are said. And yes, at times, this may make you feel isolated, but that too is part of the process. It's not because you're meant to disconnect from the world, but because you need clarity. You need to know what truly belongs to you and what doesn't. The universe is training you in the subtle realms, in a kind of intelligence that cannot be taught in books, but is remembered by the soul. This elevated sensitivity is not a weakness, it is a tool, because the greatness that is coming is not meant to passively belong to you. It is meant to move through you. And if you're not attuned, if you don't know how to listen, how to stop when something feels off, you might get lost in the noise. That's why now, more than ever, you feel everything so strongly. Not because you're more fragile, but because you're more awake. And with this increased sensitivity comes a new way to protect yourself. You no longer need lengthy explanations to walk away from something that feels incoherent. You no longer feel the need to justify your boundaries. You don't have to explain to the world why something doesn't resonate with you. You feel it, and that is enough. Your body has become an antenna, your soul a compass, and you are starting to trust. Even on the days when everything feels overwhelming, you know deep inside that none of this is a mistake. You're going through an internal expansion. That overwhelming openness is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of readiness. Because only someone who can feel deeply is capable of holding something truly meaningful. And you, who have silently sensed this transformation for a long time, are now being finely tuned to receive it. You're also beginning to notice that this new sensitivity not only helps you detect what's not meant for you, it powerfully connects you to what is. There are moments when you walk into a place and feel instant peace, without knowing why. Conversations that are brief but ignite something in your soul. Projects that have barely started, yet you feel their purpose vibrating through you. That kind of certainty doesn't come from your mind. It comes from a deeper part of you that is becoming clearer, sharper, more aligned. And this doesn't happen because you've learned more. It happens because you're less distracted, less conditioned, less disconnected from your essence. In this quiet preparation, the universe has been removing what numbed you, not as punishment, but as a way to bring you back to your center. Because only from that place can you truly recognize what is meant for you. You also start to realize that you can no longer tolerate almost half-truths, half-hearted connections, lukewarm decisions. They now feel unbearable. What once was mildly annoying is now impossible to ignore. But this isn't intolerance, it's clarity. Your soul has become too precise to pretend, too real to entertain what doesn't match the frequency of who you are now. And yes, that might hurt at times, but it's also protection. It's a sign. What's coming doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be authentic. And that's why the universe is refining your perception. until you can only move toward what is in alignment. There is no more room for what doesn't resonate, no more space for what feeds your ego but leaves your soul starving. You're being refined for the real. And in the midst of that intensity, something else begins to arrive. A new kind of calm. Because when you finally stop forcing yourself to carry what doesn't vibrate with you, your energy begins to align, and your life begins to breathe again. You, who used to doubt every instinct, now recognize a true yes the moment it appears. You know it without thinking. Your body confirms it. Your energy expands. There is no need to convince yourself anymore. And in that vulnerable yet grounded state, soft yet certain, you're being prepared, not to merely survive, not to just adapt, but to receive, hold, and channel something bigger than you. Something that can only manifest through you. With this heightened sensitivity comes a deep honesty with yourself. You can no longer ignore your feelings. You can no longer remain silent when something within you says no. You can no longer stay in connections out of habit or in places where your energy shrinks. Because as the universe prepares you, it makes it impossible for you to keep betraying your own truth. And though this may lead you to make difficult choices, you begin to see that each thing you let go of is actually a powerful affirmation of what you are meant to carry forward. You begin to treat your energy as sacred, not because you fear others, but because you finally respect yourself. You've learned that not everything that vibrates near you deserves to stay. Not every closeness is true connection. And your sensitivity wasn't given to you to adapt to the noise. It was given to help you create spaces where calm, authenticity, and depth can exist without masks. That kind of clarity may push some people away, but it brings the essential ones closer. And you are no longer willing to negotiate what is essential. Even your silences carry more truth now. There are things you simply stop explaining. You no longer feel the need to justify your intuition. Those who feel it will understand. Those who don't need to. Because you are no longer trying to explain yourself from a place of lack. You are standing in your truth, in what you've begun to remember, that you are here for something greater, and that greater thing cannot be built on a smaller version of who you are. The most beautiful part of all this is that your sensitivity hasn't weakened you. It has brought you back to yourself. It has reconnected you with a depth that asks for no permission, seeks no approval, and needs no explanation. You are becoming a clear, open space where the great can dwell, not just to receive, but to manifest, not just to have, but to transform. Because the universe doesn't place the sacred just anywhere. It places it where it knows it will be cared for. It delivers it into the hands of those who have learned to hold themselves even in the darkness, to those who have felt so deeply that they can now carry the weight of truth without breaking. To those like you, who have come to understand that this sensitivity is not a limitation. It is the very language your soul uses when destiny is calling. The fourth sign reveals itself in a moment of quiet clarity, when you begin to feel, perhaps for the first time, that everything you've lived through, both the beautiful and the brutal, the moments that made sense and those that never did, all start to come together, like scattered puzzle pieces, finally finding their place. It's as though something within you begins to whisper a truth you always carried, but could never quite articulate, that nothing happened without purpose, that the pain wasn't random, that the silence wasn't in vain. This isn't a mental understanding. It's not a conclusion your thoughts arrive at after long reflection. No, It's something deeper. It's an inner integration, an emotional and spiritual merging of all your past experiences. It feels like something clicking into place, not in your head, but in your chest, where emotions live. You suddenly start to feel why those moments of heartbreak occurred. You begin to sense why your soul chose paths that hurt, why you were led through long periods of stillness and emptiness. This inner alignment doesn't come with words or logical explanations. It comes as an expansion within you, a silent, powerful shift. You recall situations that once brought tears, and now, instead of pain, there is only gratitude. You revisit relationships that broke you and realize they gave you the clarity you didn't even know you were missing. You look at the pauses, the closed doors, the dead ends, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Not because your mind has figured them out, but because your soul no longer resists them. Nothing that happened was a punishment. It was all preparation. You realize that the universe was never working against you. Even in your darkest moments, even when you were drowning in despair and felt utterly alone, there was something, an invisible force, protecting you, guiding you, redirecting you, cutting the cords you didn't yet have the strength to cut, letting go of what no longer served you, even when you tried to hold on. And now, from this new place of awareness, you see that what you thought was loss was really sacred redirection. This inner union with your past changes everything. You no longer carry your story as a burden. You honor it as a sacred map. Every experience that broke you also taught you how to rebuild with more depth, more wisdom, more soul. Every goodbye created space for something truer to enter. Every silence that once filled you with rage or confusion is now the echo of a lesson that prepared you for the weight and beauty of what you're finally able to hold. What you're feeling now isn't nostalgia. It's alignment, a wordless kind of gratitude that sneaks in softly and changes the way you breathe. You no longer feel the urge to relive your past, to rewrite the script, or question your choices. You don't need to learn through pain anymore. You're stepping into a different chapter, one where your past transforms into wisdom, not weight. One where each scar on your heart becomes proof of your inner strength. Where the chaos that once disoriented you now reveals a hidden order. And that shift, subtle yet profound, is nothing short of transformation. Because when you stop wishing you could go back and change something, anything, it's a sign that you've reached a level of inner integration where your soul is finally ready for what's next. Great things don't arrive when everything is perfect. They arrive when you are at peace with imperfection, when you no longer run from the path that brought you here, but instead, you bless it. You've stopped waiting with anxiety. Now, you wait with presence. And that quiet, conscious waiting is a frequency, a vibration. The universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to your vibration, your inner state of being. And without even realizing it, you've already begun to vibrate in tune with what's on its way to you. You've also started to look at yourself through a new lens. You no longer judge yourself for who you were in earlier seasons of your life. You no longer replay your choices or torture yourself with what-ifs. Something within you has softened, not out of resignation, but out of spiritual maturity. And that softness cannot be forced. It's a sacred sign that your soul has taken a leap. Because to understand the purpose behind what you've lived is not to justify it. It's to embrace it with love. And that's what you're doing now. This integration shows up in your inner voice, in how gently you speak to yourself in moments of silence, in how you no longer pressure yourself to prove anything to anyone. You've stopped sprinting to get ahead. Now you walk, intentionally and fully present, simply to inhabit the moment. You've let go of chasing ideal versions of yourself. You no longer carry other people's expectations as if they were your own. You are releasing weight, not because you are weak, but because you finally understand that your soul doesn't need to carry everything in order to move forward. And in this new lightness, something else appears: clarity. Because when you stop fighting against your own journey, the signs become visible. The answers you once searched for outside of yourself now rise from within. The questions no longer torment you, not because they've all been answered, but because they no longer matter in the same way. And you, who once lived layered beneath so many masks, so much confusion, are beginning to peel everything back and hold on to only what's essential. Every phase that once felt chaotic now reveals itself as an exact movement of your soul. Every loss, a divine opening. Every ending, a sacred preparation. And what once hurt now empowers you, not because the pain was beautiful, but because you made it meaningful, because you chose growth over bitterness. And that choice, that fidelity to your own becoming in the middle of chaos, is the clearest sign of all. Because what's coming isn't just arriving by destiny, it's arriving because you're now strong enough to hold it without it breaking you, because you can now receive it without shrinking under its weight, because you no longer crave it from a place of emptiness. You recognize it as the natural result of someone who has made space within their soul. And you, without even noticing, have already made that space, not through sacrifice, but through alignment, through coherence, through stillness, through that unshakable certainty that doesn't need form or words, but pulses through your being and tells you, now you are truly ready. And the fifth sign is when, without really knowing how or why, you begin to vibrate differently. You can't quite explain it. Nothing major has shifted on the outside. Your job might still be the same. Your relationships, your routine, your daily life. They all look quite similar. But deep inside, you feel it. Something has shifted. A subtle, yet profound change in your energy has taken place. You're not trying harder. You're not forcing anything. Yet, there's this undeniable sense that you're standing in a new frequency. You begin to notice that the way you perceive life has changed. Your presence is more grounded, your thoughts are more clear, and your ability to connect with others and with yourself feels deeper. It's as if something has awakened within you. You're no longer living life from the same lens. Even though your external world hasn't caught up yet, even though the people around you might not see the difference, you know you're ready. Because it's not the world that validates this transformation. It's not the circumstances or the people around you who confirm that you've made the leap. It's your inner frequency, your internal vibration, that already carries the evidence of your evolution. You can feel it pulsing in your chest, resonating in your choices, speaking through your intuition. And as that vibration rises, something powerful begins to happen. You start attracting new experiences. People you've never met before suddenly appear, drawn to the energy you're emitting. Places, opportunities, and encounters that feel aligned start flowing into your life. But this isn't happening because you're desperately searching. You're not chasing it. You're not grasping. You're simply no longer in resonance with what once was. The mismatch between who you are becoming and what you once tolerated is becoming impossible to ignore. The universe, in its quiet wisdom, has recalibrated your energy, not as a random shift, but as a deliberate preparation. You are being prepared for a life that is more authentic, more expansive, more aligned with the truth of who you've always been deep within. This new vibration of yours isn't always visible to the naked eye, but it's undeniably felt. You feel it every morning when you wake up, and there's less heaviness in your chest, more presence in your body. You feel it in your decisions, how you now choose what nourishes you without guilt or over-explaining, how you can no longer tolerate what used to drain you, how you now breathe deeper, slower, more fully, not because life is perfect, but because you've found your center. You're no longer operating from urgency. You're no longer seeking validation, no longer trying to prove your worth to anyone. You simply embody it. You're becoming more attuned to how you feel and less preoccupied with how others perceive you. And that subtle inner shift, that quiet revolution within, changes everything. Because when your vibration rises, your reality responds. Not always instantly, not always dramatically, but always inevitably. You begin to witness synchronicities that once went unnoticed, encounters that feel divinely orchestrated, people who speak your soul's language, even if you've never met them before, ideas that land with a force that doesn't come from your mind, but from your vibration. And you're no longer surprised, because now you know it's not magic, it's alignment. You're seeing on the outside what you've long been cultivating within. You've cleared so much. You've let go of so much. You've chosen stillness over noise again and again. And now the universe is responding, not as a reward, but as a reflection. Your presence is changing too. You feel it in how others respond to you. Some open up around you without even knowing why. Others quietly drift away, and you don't take it personally anymore. You understand that when your energy shifts, everything that no longer resonates must find its proper place. It's not loss, it's alignment. It's not rejection, it's vibrational clarity. And you no longer resist it. You're no longer available for what depletes you. You're now choosing to stay where you are nourished. You're no longer settling for halfway love, halfway commitment, halfway presence. You no longer give your time out of obligation. You're stepping into a new way of living, a quieter yet infinitely more powerful way, because your vibration is no longer begging, it's inviting, it's summoning what's meant for you. And the most beautiful part is, you're not waiting for something big to happen in order to feel whole. You already feel it now. You're not looking to be completed by what's to come. What's coming is not arriving to fill a void. It's coming to expand a fullness that you've already recognized within. And when that becomes your truth, you know you're ready. Because the greatness that's arriving doesn't impose itself. It meets you where you are, and you are already vibrating in alignment. When the universe prepares you for something extraordinary, It doesn't do it through noise or promises. It doesn't send loud declarations or fireworks. It prepares you with silence that transforms, with pauses that rearrange, with subtle signs that only the soul can decode. And you, who have walked through so many phases, who have remained true to your essence despite everything, are now receiving what was always meant for you. Not because you chased it, but because you became it. You don't need to understand every step. Just remember, you are not being delayed. You are being refined. You are not wasting time. You are making space. And what's on its way will not arrive through panic or pressure. It will come through truth, through alignment. And without even realizing it, you're already vibrating in that truth. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something awaken inside you with every word, it's because what's coming is already near. You don't need to strive for it. Just stay open, stay grounded, stay aligned. And if you wish to keep walking this path hand in hand with messages like this one, this space will be here for you. Because here, we don't just speak. We remember. We remember who we are, what we came for, and what's always been within us, waiting for the moment we were ready to see it. Your soul already knows the way. It just needed to hear it.